Today we're going to talk a little bit about latitude and longitude so you can learn how to find out where on Earth you are. We'll start out first with latitude. Lines of latitude are imaginary lines that start at the equator and measure how far north or south you are. Latitude is measured by the angle between a line from the Earth's center to any place on Earth, starting at the equator. The lines of latitude are also called parallels as they are parallel to each other. From the equator to the North Pole are labeled 0 to 90 degrees north latitude, and from the equator to the South Pole are 0 to minus 90 degrees south latitude. Maui is at 20 degrees north latitude. For any point between the equator and the North Pole, latitude is obtained by measuring the altitude of Hokupa'a, also called the North Star and technically called Polaris. This angle is called the altitude of Polaris. At the equator, the North Star is on the horizon, and at the North Pole, it is directly overhead. In Hawaiian, it's called Hokupa'a because that means the star that is stuck. It's stuck in one place. While other stars move around in the sky, Hokupa'a is always at the same place, directly above the North Pole. If you're in the southern hemisphere, Hokupa'a is below the horizon, so you must use another star to navigate there. You can use a sextant to find the angle of the stars or the sun to the horizon, and in doing that, you can find out exactly where you are, north and south. Now, the Hawaiians didn't have a sextant, but they used other things, such as the width of their finger or the length of their arm to measure the height of stars above the horizon. The lines of longitude, or meridians, are formed at right angles to the latitude lines. These imaginary lines are based on time and are measured from the prime meridian to the east or west. Since there's no natural dividing point like the equator for north and south, the prime meridian was chosen by people. It goes from the North Pole to the South Pole through Greenwich, England, because at the time they did that, Greenwich, England was considered to be the center of the universe, at least for the Europeans at that time. There are 360 degrees in a circle, and the Earth is split into two sides, east and west. Directly on the other side of the Earth from the prime meridian is the international date line. This is where a new day starts. When it is midnight at the international date line, it's noon at the prime meridian in Greenwich, England. Unlike the lines of latitude, these lines are not parallel to each other. They're also called great circles because all of them are the same size, unlike the lines of latitude, which get smaller closer to the poles. Because the Earth spins on its axis, longitude is harder to measure than latitude because it's based on time. A sextant can be used to determine longitude only with an accurate timepiece and known angle of the sun on any given day. Using a sextant, sun sights are usually taken at noon, and you must have an almanac to know exactly what time the sun is overhead for that day, because it changes during different times of the year. This was a problem in early navigation until a reliable timepiece could be had. Greenwich Mean Time, or the prime meridian, and it's also called universal time, which is what everything is based on. And the Earth rotates 15 degrees of longitude each hour. So 15 degrees of that 360-degree circle each hour. So that's why we have time zones. So each time zone is 1 hour is 15 degrees of the Earth. And here you can see the prime meridian right here, which goes through Greenwich, England. Everything that's going west of the prime meridian is the west. And then here we have the international date line. So if it was Sunday on this side, it would be Monday on the other side. And if it's noon here, it's midnight there. It's the exact opposite of the Earth. And the Earth rotates from west to east, and that's why if you looked at the United States from a satellite, you could see at night the nightfall is falling on the eastern half of the United States, and California and also Hawaii, which you can't see here, would be still daylight. The Polynesians were able to migrate all over the Pacific using nature. They didn't have any tools like a sextant, but they were able to use all kinds of other tools. They used a star map, not just the Hoku Pa'a, they used other stars, and they knew which stars were the zenith stars for each island that they wanted to travel to. And in that way, they could always find their way north and south, but the east and west was a little bit trickier. So they would navigate their way to a known latitude, and then they would go either east or west to find what they were looking for. And you can find islands by looking at things like the wave refraction around islands and how it goes around, so you know when the waves change direction that there's probably an island that they're going around. There's also elaborate ways like looking at clouds, and if you've noticed, there's almost always clouds over an island, and sometimes you can even see green clouds when it's a big lagoon, like up in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. You can see that the light green of the water reflects up into the clouds, and you can see the green from very far away. There's also birds like the Eva bird. It's also called a frigate bird, that fly around out in the ocean during the day to look for food, and then they go back to their roost on the island at night. So if it's late in the day and you follow one of these birds, it might just lead you right to land. And then there's also birds like the kolea or the Pacific golden plover, which do long migrations. They will spend their winters in Hawaii, and then in the summers they'll fly all the way up to areas around Alaska. It's pretty amazing to me that the Polynesians found their way around the biggest ocean in the world by learning about nature. And today, most people just use a GPS to find their way around. We'll learn more about that another time, about GPSs and some modern technology. But hopefully this class will help you see and understand your world in new and fun ways. And until next time, a hui hou.